This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
All right, the Browns are preparing to play the Miami Dolphins, and we finally got some updates on some practice statuses, including a long-awaited update from Mike Hall in his whole injury situation, which, look, if I'm going to complain about the team not being forefront about information, about them not letting us know what's going on, I have to applaud them somewhat when they do actually do the thing, right? Can't just complain, you do the thing and be like, that's not a good way to go about life. So Mike Hall, we finally get some clarity. Also, we get a full practice from Mike Hall. He's questionable for this week's game. His first time not being straight up out, I think, since before the Baltimore game, right? So there's been a big question of hey, what's going on with Mike Hall's injury and what's been happening there? Because it feels like at some point, given the information that we know, there was some kind of setback for Mike Hall. And we got an answer today. Mike Hall talked to the media, and he informed the media the first time he communicated from any source. By the way, this article is from Jared Mueller from Dogs by Nature. Make sure you go check him out. But Mike Hall had multiple surgeries due to multiple injuries. The timing of the surgeries, as well as the severity of his injuries, explains the length of time it's taken for the second-year pro to get back on the field. It does not, however, explain the team's decision to make him active to start the season. That's another thing, right? But it does look like Mike Hall had to get multiple surgeries. Now, we don't know the specific details of it, right? I brought up the idea of I remember this happened with J.K. Dobbins when he was in Baltimore, where he came back from a knee injury, played for one quarter, sat the rest of the game, got a knee scope, didn't come back for another 5 weeks. And that ended up fixing the problem with his knee. So maybe that's a similar situation to what we're getting here, but there were multiple injuries that he was working back from. All we had heard up to this point was that Mike Hall had the meniscus tear, right? And the usual timeline for a meniscus tear, it just wasn't lining up with what we were being told at the time. But this makes sense. So that's what was going on with Mike Hall. It wasn't that he didn't want to play. Again, I did not make that assumption and did not encourage people to make that assumption about Mike Hall. It was that there was more going on with the injury than what was publicly known, and that was going to create circumstances that were different. So that's the Mike Hall part of it that feels pretty explained. I still haven't found a great explanation to why the Browns operated in the way that they operated with this injury. I think that's still questionable to me, right? He has multiple injuries he's coming back from. You know that the timelines for those injuries are going to be a bit wonky. I know that Zach Jackson reported that the Browns expected this to be the timeline. And look, if I take that report at face value, I honestly have more questions about the Browns' operation there than I do about Mike Hall anymore, right? The Mike Hall questions part of this, that's over with. We know what was going on with him. The real question is, why did the Browns choose to operate like this? He could come back earlier and talk about his injury he could come back earlier when they knew the whole time he wasn't going to come back earlier. So either there was a disagreement about what the actual injury status was with the Browns front office and Mike Hall, or there's some other explanation that can explain it. Either way, it's, again, part of a larger pattern that has existed with the Browns, where it does seem like a common thread is that they are downplaying the injuries that players have, and that tends to keep popping up with them. I don't know whose fault it is. Again, we're just kind of looking from the outside looking in. It could be Andrew's fault. It could be the training staff's fault. It could be Kevin's fault. It could be everybody's fault. But it does feel like if you listen to these guys talk about coming back from injuries, especially the cases that get a little weird when it comes to the recovery, it seems like they kind of allude to this idea that the Browns, felt like it wasn't something that they could play. Well, it was something that they could play through, but the players' opinion of it was that it wasn't, which is interesting, right? Given how safe this team likes to play things throughout the years. But I mean, we could go down the list of countless examples of this popping up. It popped up with Odell Beckham at times. It popped up with Baker Mayfield in 2021, the disagreement about the labrum injury, right? Like, there seems to be constant, right? Jed Wills was in there for a year. There was the Jack Conklin thing last year. There seems to be a constant flow of injuries, which I can't blame the front office for injury, right? Like, it's football, injuries happen. But there seems to be a constant flow of the reaction to the injury, creating some kind of weird friction that makes itself known publicly. And that's a problem that needs to be addressed sooner than later, because it can't, like, I don't want to sit here every year and wonder, is this the weird Browns thing where they're downplaying an injury that somebody has, or a player wants to play through an injury, they don't want them. Like, what's the quabble here with the injury? Is there a lack of trust in the building with the players and the Cleveland Browns medical staff? That could be another explanation of it. But something ain't right there, right? Just something is very obviously not right there. And I think it would behoove the Cleveland Browns to address that while they're addressing a lot of other issues, because this is something that also matters. Let's jump in to the next topic, which is the Cleveland Browns injury report and everything else. But before I do that, I gotta thank my sponsor for today, Sleeper. All right, it's pick time on Sleeper. We're going to go through my picks of the week here. I have Browns versus Dolphins picks to go through for this week's contest. All right, so my first one is Dylan Gabriel over 29.5 pass attempts. This is a dicey one because I do think that Quincy's going to get the ball a lot in this game. I think 35 is the magic number in the offense to be able to have a level of success that's necessary to put up points to win this game. I think there's a non-zero chance that this becomes a higher scoring affair than people, or at least to win the game, you're going to have to score more points than people are assuming coming into it. For the same reason, I'm going to say Dylan to win this game is probably going to have to go over 175 yards. David Achane from Miami is my Miami pick here. 4.5 receptions. He's the reception leader right now for the Miami Dolphins, so I feel comfortable about him getting the ball a ton in this game. And then Harold Fannin, 4.5 receptions in this game. He has not gone under 4 targets in a game all season. He's coming off of a 10-target game in Pittsburgh last week. I expect him to get the ball a ton more But those are my picks. If you want to join the fun, make sure you join Sleeper with promo code Worst Take. Get a $100 up to $100 match on up to $100, and then they're doing a $20 promo code as well. So make sure you check that out. Y'all have a great day and continue to watch the video. All right, so there were some Myles Garrett quotes that a lot of people wanted to talk about. I didn't find these quotes as interesting as some of the quotes that came out after the game, and I'm gonna be honest with you. You can say whatever you want before the game. If you perform, I'm not really going to have a problem with it. What bothered me about Myles Garrett's comments were that they were after a game where he didn't perform at a high level, right? And that's what bothered me, right? So if he wants to say stuff before the game, it bothers me less. There's still some stuff in here I'm not a big fan of, and I don't think points towards the right direction as far as the defense goes. They asked him a bunch of questions about the offense after Flacco's performance. And the full quote from Myles here from Daniel Fuise's Twitter is, "It makes me see that whatever the offense that they're committed to running produce wins. Doesn't see that what Joe is going to be the most productive in the offense. Unless they want to move to the pocket a little bit, maybe the style and what he does doesn't fit us and what we want to run. That's what I see." So he's saying, maybe Joe's just a better fit for what they want to do. Dylan's a better fit for what we want to do. There's this quote here that I think this was the one that a lot of people made a big deal out of. On teams getting the ball out quickly, it's only gotten worse with time. Without the threat of putting up a lot of points, they have no fear of running up the score and punting. So it's like, if we can punt, we'll get the ball back eventually, we'll wear them down, and we'll start to score eventually in their heads. We have to do more. It's not that we don't have to do that much. We've got to get it out of our minds, whether that's taking more risk on defense or scoring more points on offense. We've got to kind of dissuade them from that. That's a perfectly normal quote, right? Like, I don't even think that's throwing the offense under the bus. He's saying we got to either take more risk on defense or score more points on offense to stop teams from getting rid of the ball quickly, right? Like, yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really have much of a problem with it, right? If I had a problem with Myles and what he was saying, I have no problem saying it this week. These comments ain't really doing it for me. I'm not really upset about that. So my takeaway from it is he's just saying what the situation is on offense, and it's not coming at an inappropriate time, like after a game, after you didn't play well, right? Also, look, I do think the defense could anticipate that teams are going to throw the ball out quickly and maybe, just maybe, get their hands up a little bit more. It's bothered me with this defense the last 3 weeks. We're not getting hands up at the line of scrimmage. We're not even trying to bat. Like, we know the ball is coming out quickly. We know that's the number one strategy against us. Let's get our hands up. Maybe that could be like, you get a batted pass. I mean, that's huge, right? It's an incompletion. It's going to get a team automatically behind the sticks most of the time. Why aren't the Browns going for those if they know that these passes are going to be short? I'm not going to eviscerate Myles for this one. I think people are making a big deal out of this one, right? So we'll see what happens. If Myles plays well, then I don't think anybody even remembers these quotes. And I don't even think these quotes are saying what people really were trying to make them out to be said. So that's the whole thing there. If we look at the injury report for the Browns this week, we did get a full practice, which is a great sign from Mike Hall. First full practice for him of the season. Again, we talked at length about Mike Hall's situation. Hopefully that continues to be clarified as the week goes on. Still a lot of questions about who's going to be available, right? We got some game statuses. David Njoku's not playing in this one. So again, I expect Harold to get the ball a ton now. Jack Conklin is questionable. I believe he's concussion protocol. Mason Graham is questionable. Mike Hall is questionable. Gage Larvin is questionable. Joe Tryon Shoyinka is questionable. So an upgraded in status for Mike Hall. He's gone from out the last 4 weeks to questionable, which is a good sign. David Njoku out this week. That's going to hurt, right? Like, you got a good edge rusher in Jalen Phillips coming into town, right? You're going to need David Njoku to chip on the edge. You're already going to be short some of your tackles. So be interested to see how we make up for the absence of David Njoku. So that's something that we should not really take super lightly that he's not out there. Mason Graham and Mike Hall both being questionable. For Mike Hall, again, this is an upgrade in status. For Mason Graham, this is a downgrade. I think that they're probably going to play both of them. I think they both got practices in this week, full practices in, so I expect them to play. I don't know what Jack Conklin's situation is. For him to be questionable and not out, I would assume he at least got a limited practice in. I don't have that information as we speak right now. Gage Larvinen, Joe Tryon, Shoyinka, those are kind of guys at the bottom of the roster here. I mean, Gage does return kicks and punts for the Browns, but I don't expect that to swing the game one way or the other, or at least you wouldn't want it to. But that's the Browns situation going into this game versus the Miami Dolphins. It's going to be interesting to see how they come out and play, right? Part of their excuse for last week was, hey, it was a strange week. We're coming off the London trip. Okay, I want to see a renewed amount of focus this week, especially from the defense. But we'll see what they look like coming into this game. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.